Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first ever and launch webinar of Plan Haus. My name is Dan, and I'm the director and designer here at Plan Haus. Thank you so much to everybody who's registered for today, who's come along today, given me this time on your Thursday afternoon. Now, you know you're all very, very busy people, so I do really appreciate it. Just some kind of key things before we start. Please ask as many questions as you want to today. We've got the full hour. My side definitely won't take that long. So if you do have any questions, then please do pop them in. If you feel too much pressure to ask any questions, then don't worry about that. Equally, let me know that you're here. Let everybody else know that you're here as well. I do have some slides that we'll be going through, but afterwards we can ask as many questions and have a good conversation if we want to as well. So without further ado, let me just share my slides and we will get cracking. So let me see. There we go. So hopefully everybody should be able to see that. If you cannot at this point, then just give me a shout and we'll be able to do some troubleshooting, but it looks like everybody can, so that's awesome. Okay, so thank you for coming along. This webinar today, like you've probably already guessed, is called How to Make Your Firm Stand Out Every Single Day. And we're going to look at a lot of different examples of firms who do it well. Not actual examples, but some ideas from them of what they do that we consider really impressive, and they really have a fantastic client experience across all aspects of that client journey. So the next 30 minutes, I want us to try and use this time that we've got together as productively as we possibly can. Now, I'll share loads of ideas, but if you guys have ideas as well, then I want to hear them. Everybody else who's here wants to hear them, and that's the kind of the message today is, good ideas are worth sharing. So let's absolutely do it. We're not trying to hide anything from each other. So that's a really good opportunity today. So if you do have any thoughts or opinions, and I love strong opinions as well, then please do just kind of put them in the chat and we'll deal with them that way. So I don't want to bore you, right? I do not want to bore you. I hate presentations that start with this kind of shit normally, but just to kind of explain, because I haven't ever, I don't think, introduced myself to my audience properly. So I've nearly worked in financial planning now for 10 years, qualified financial planner, been through kind of lots of different routes, paraplanning, financial planner, operations, marketing, recently head of community and head of marketing, and also head of agency as well. So I just thought I'd kind of get that out in the open now, so that you don't just think, who's this random blonde dude from Newcastle, telling me how I should do stuff in my business. And that's a key point, actually, is that I'm not here to tell you how to do things in your business, because you're the one who knows your business the best. And so therefore, anything that I tell you should just be an idea. It shouldn't be an order. But if you do take anything that I say today or that anybody else says today, then of course I want to know about it. And of course, I'm always here for any kind of chats and things like that as well. But just to kind of let you know who I am, in case you're thinking, who the hell is this guy? So today we'll be looking at lots of different things, but you'll walk away with three things really. So the first one, I guess, is I really love kind of practical stuff. So I really love the idea of actually being able to take something today that you've kind of come across for the first time, perhaps, and actually implementing that either straight away, tomorrow, next week, whatever it might be. So what we'll do is we'll be looking at practical ideas, not just kind of hypotheses or theories or anything like that. A lot of these things will be people are actually doing, and that you can do in your business as well. And you might not agree with all of them, and that's completely fine. What I've also done is I've also put together a free video guide. So as you probably guessed, there's going to be quite a little bit on video today, but I'll give you that video guide specific for financial planners. And that's just a thank you for being here and thank you for giving up your time. And a rather exciting one that I don't think anybody actually knows yet is, and you might look at this and think, oh God, and it's not forced, by the way. If you do win this competition, you don't have to accept the prize. But with what I'm also doing at the end of today is I'm giving a free video day away with me. Now, these things normally cost £6,000, but from today, one of you, the draw is next week, one of you will be automatically, all of you are automatically entered, but one of you will be winning the prize of a free video day with me. Like I said, If you don't want to do it, then that's absolutely fine. I'm not forcing you. But I thought I'd include that as a nice little incentive just to say a big thank you for you guys coming along today. So keep your eyes open on your inboxes in the next week or so for the draw in that as well. So into the actual, I guess Nick Lincoln would say, meat and potatoes of what I'm trying to say today. Then, so the big idea with all of this is that standing out is not only, it doesn't just happen at the start of your client experience. Okay, it doesn't just happen on your website. It doesn't just happen when you're at a networking event and somebody says, he's actually a nice, or she's, they're nice. It actually happens all the time with your clients. And I think actually what a lot of us do is we kind of forget that. I'm victim of this. I think we all are, in that standing out does not just happen at the very start when you're trying to get somebody to work with you. It should be a continuous process, and you should always be trying to wow people throughout that client experience. And not only your clients, but anybody you work with, your stakeholders, your relationships, all those kind of things. We want to be impressing everybody that is in our sphere as much as we possibly can. And it's something that ultimately standing out is something that has to be earned. It's not something that's assumed. It's not something that is kind of presumed. It's something that you have to earn. And there's a lot of different things that we can do to make it happen. But it is something that we have to work towards. And you shouldn't be thinking that you're going to do it on day one, because that's very rare for that to happen. So what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to have a look through, and we've done this before, but obviously I've worked with well over 100 firms now throughout the years. And they've all got, as you can imagine, very kind of distinct journeys from each other. But they've also got kind of similarities between them and ways that they impress their clients. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is the way that you should do your financial planning journey. But what we're going to do is drill into most of them, because I would imagine everybody's got a similar one to this. We'll drill into all of them and we'll see what actually does standing out at each of those moments look like. So, for example, what happens, at first contact? What happens? How do we make ourselves stand out when a client gets in touch with us, or we kind of interact with them for the very first time? So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at the small ones, the big ones, the chunky ones. We're going to be looking at all of them and thinking, what can we do to stand out at each of those different points? Excuse me. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one then. So the first one, obviously, in most client journeys is touch point number one, which is getting found. Now, I know that I've just simplified that to hell, because there's often months, maybe even years of conversations of, trying to get people to work with you, of lots of marketing effort that goes before this point here. But getting found is ultimately the starting point of any financial planning journey. And across everybody, so no matter if they've been referred to you, no matter if they've been sent to you by an accountant or an existing client, whether they've actually found you on social media or Google, the likelihood is that I would imagine well over 95% of people actually do a quick Google of you before they start working with you. I'm not saying that Google is the reason that they found you, but they will always Google you before they start working with you. And so one of the best things that I think that you can do to kind of already start thinking about standing out is, how do you look if somebody was to do that? And a lot of people actually don't think about this. There's big, huge organizations who have, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of marketing budgets to get them to the top of Google and AI search and all those different things here. You have the superpower in that, I know it doesn't feel like a superpower, but you can actually feel smaller and you can feel more personal. And, it doesn't feel like you're paying for their attention. It feels like you've earned it. So if you are looking to get found on search, then just make sure that things like your Google business profile, all those kind of things, they actually look professional. They look impressive. They've got your logo on. They've maybe got pictures of the team and the office and those kind of things. The logo is the most important thing. And also, there are a lot of kind of Google business profiles where the street view, shall we say, isn't as appealing as they would want it to be. So, for example, when our financial planning business, it used to be some kind of wasteland before the building was built. And you just got to make sure that that doesn't happen with your Google My Business profile. So that's one of the first things you can do to impress people, is make sure that that's really good. Obviously, reviews and stuff like that are really good. What you can do nowadays as well is you can answer the questions. If anybody's looked on Google, you can see that they've got questions down the right-hand side. You can preload some questions that you think that your clients are going to be asking. So a really, really, really simple one is, how much does the first meeting cost? You can just put that in there, and that immediately removes that question from the client's head, because you've already answered it. But you can have tons of different stuff on there. So I'm not really talking about SEO here. I'm talking about once they've found, SEO means search engine optimization, for anybody who is confused by what that means. Basically getting to the top of Google. What we want to do here is, once they've found you on Google, you look impressive, you look great, and they actually want to work with you. So that's something that you can think about from tomorrow, basically, is how do we do that? Now, it might take a little bit of time to find the logins, which is absolutely fine. But that's one of the things I would start with, is what happens at that found moment. The next bit is, okay, so maybe they've Googled you, or they've been past your website by an accountant or solicitor or their friend or whatever it might be, and they land on your website. Okay, so that is pretty much, again, I would say well over 85-90% of clients will actually look at your website first, no matter where they've come from. It might come from the website, but a lot of the time it doesn't, but it'll still probably look at your website. And just some really key basic points to stand out in our profession is to speak to the client, not about yourself. So many financial planning websites still have products, they still have qualifications, they still have, all these different things that are remnants of perhaps 30 or 40 years ago, the way we used to do things. Nowadays, we're a lot more kind of, and this might sound negative, but we are selfish, and therefore we don't really care about you. We just care about how this is going to help me. And people are looking for speed. And so therefore, if they can't figure that out in the first 5-10 seconds, they're probably not going to actually subconsciously believe that you can help them. So speak to the client. The problem is really important as well. So a lot of the time we lead with maybe the solution. We lead with, retirement planning, or we lead with insurance or protection or estate planning and all those kind of things, when actually the client may not even know what they need. They may not know that they need retirement planning. So actually what you can do is phrase it as a question, or frame it as a question of, well, what are you going to do when you retire? Or, have you thought about if you can retire a little bit earlier? Or, all those big, huge financial planning questions, or what do you want retirement not to look like? They're the problems that they actually have, even if they don't know they have them yet. So what I would do is I'd lead with those, and I'd get the client to think that they've got a problem. I know it might sound negative, maybe if they don't even realize it. If we rush to solutions too quickly, then it just makes us look the same as everybody else, because that's what everybody else is doing. So a really nice personal website, if you have a niche, then it's even easier, that focuses on their specific problems. And if I asked you to write down a lot of these, I imagine that a lot of you would be able to. I know it might take some time, but I guarantee you could think of at least 10 problems that your clients have. So why don't we start with them? That's a really good way to do it. And the next bit is to make the next step impossible to miss. So a lot of the time on financial planning websites, they do have calls to action, but they're pretty boring and they're pretty hidden. Most people have like a contact form at the bottom of the page, for example. You should be ready for your client to be making decisions throughout the whole entire website. So there should really be lots of different ways for them to get in touch with you or engage with you at certain points. So make it really obvious how they get in touch with you. And a lot of the time, they don't actually need to think too much. They're like, right, I'll just give them a message or whatever. They don't actually have to think about it too much. So just try and do almost a bit of a self-assessment on, is it easy for my clients to get in touch with me if they want to? So found, now we're on the website, they've scrolled through, they thought, yes, these are the people for me. What happens next after this point then? So I know this is difficult, okay? So I can say this as a business owner. I know that you've got a million different things going on, and speed is often one of the luxuries in life that we just do not have. But this is something that I think we can all be better at, especially financial planning businesses, is the first response once somebody gets in touch with you. Okay, so let's compare those two options that you can see on the screen there. We've got the one on the left, which is you get in touch with them within the hour, or you've got the 3 days later one, which I would recommend that we try and move away from if we possibly can. So let's deal with that one first, the 3 days later one. It might look amazing. It might sound amazing. You might have had a chance to properly think about what they're looking for. It might be due to busy times or something like that. But the likelihood is, I think we all know this, is that something that was very important in the client's brain 3 days ago is very, very unlikely to be still as important as it was back then. It's still important to them, but it's not as important. And so what we want to do is we want to capitalize and use that kind of that stress and that feeling in the client's head at that point. And every second that we get away from that feeling becomes less and less and less and less. So what I would recommend for most firms that I work with, if we can, we should legislate it that we get in touch within that hour. Now, a lot of you guys will already do this, which is brilliant, and that's fantastic. But this is something that you could definitely take away, is how quickly can we respond to people? Now, we're fighting a bit against huge organizations who have millions of pounds worth of client service teams and those kind of things, who will be in touch with them in seconds, just like that. Nobody is expecting a kind of really slick, polished thing at this point. They want personal. That's why they've come to work with you guys. And so it can still be very kind of personal. Ultimately, it can be a little bit rusty, but it's the speed that counts. It's not how polished it actually is. Now, you can make it look great if you want to, as long as it's fast. But I think speed comes over beauty at this point, because the client doesn't really care what it looks like at this point. They just want somebody to acknowledge that you've heard them and you know what they're talking about. So again, something to think about. And you can set up all sorts of different funky automations and those kind of things to deal with this, little welcome videos and all that kind of stuff. But that dissonance that happens when somebody leaves an inquiry and it doesn't get answered for a little while, that can be one of the things that kills that client experience before they've even become a client. So definitely something to think about at this point here. And then the first meeting. So this is something that I think I work on the most with my clients and with financial planning businesses. And it's because it's the make or break moment. They may be in a bit of a vanity contest with you and another firm, or really just DIY. They think they can probably do this themselves. There's a lot of pressure on them because they've probably never done this before. They've maybe even never been to see a professional before in this environment, and so therefore, there's a lot of stuff going around this client's head. So your point, your kind of your aim at this point here should be to move away from the idea that this is an appointment. Okay, the idea that this is an appointment should die, and it should never have been a thing. This is not an appointment. This is a chance for you to really make it an event, to make it impressive, to make it powerful, to make it emotional. And whatever that looks like, whether it's a 30-minute phone call or whatever it might be, whether you invite people in automatically for an hour or 90 minutes, the before in what happens to this is often the bit that is the most important. The meeting itself is crucial, absolutely, and what happens afterwards. But the bit that everybody forgets is the bit that happens before. And that's the bit that makes them nervous or excited to turn up on the actual day. So something that is really obvious that we can do is something like a branded what to expect email. So we've been doing this a lot with firms where we record a little video that just says, here's what you should bring along. Here's what you should think about. Here's some of the questions we'll be asking. Here's how long we're looking for you. If you've got parking at your office, here's how you can park, all those different things. Some people ask for example, what kind of milk the clients want when they turn up, or what coffee they would like. All those little tiny touches that might seem stupid and trivial to you, they actually do serve towards that bigger client experience and standing out as well. Really simple one is a short agenda. So a lot of the time they don't have a clue what they're coming in for. They know they've got this thing. They don't know what you're going to ask them. So a little short agenda, 1 page that just explains, okay, this is what we're going to be going through. It doesn't need to be too rigid, but it just kind of identifies to the client because they've got an idea in their head of what they want to talk about. But this helps you to get across to them what you want to get from them, which is how that working relationship starts. And then the actual afterwards, which we mentioned is important as well, is to look at a clear summary. So if you use things like Gemini or Saturn and all those kind of things, which a lot of you I know will, then this is really easy nowadays. You don't even have to press any buttons anymore. The system can do it for you automatically. That's assuming that it was online, of course, or you can set stuff up in person. But even still, if you take loads of notes in that first meeting in person with the client, you can upload them to Claude, to Gemini, to whatever it is, and get a branded summary of the things you discussed and the next action points. But the crucial thing is, even if it doesn't look nice, it's got to be the same day. It's got to be either a nice, an email, it can be a video, it can be lots of different things. The format doesn't really matter too much, but it's the stuff that's in the summary that matters the most. And again, speed is absolutely crucial here. And it's not even just because if you're in a vanity contest, it's because people forget how they felt so quickly. So they might feel amazing in that first meeting. They might already feel like that problem is starting to disappear. But the further they drive away from your office, the every single mile they drive away, that fear will start to return and return and return. So a nice little summary, just saying, lovely to see you, here's what we talked about, can go a massively long way. So that's something really important that we look at. The next thing is so I guess what we would describe as onboarding. I know that onboarding is a huge word in our profession, but let's just deal with this as the kind of from that first meeting through to doing the suitability report and the data gathering and all those kind of bits there. So hardly anybody sends welcome packs nowadays. People love getting new, swag and all that kind of stuff, personal stuff. They absolutely love it, but hardly anybody does it. And it's actually not too difficult to actually integrate as well. So something like that, there's loads of different systems online that you can look at to help you do that. In terms of business, client agreement is something that I've been railing on for years and years and years and years. But they don't need to be boring. They don't need to be too legal. They can be very easily understood by the client, even with compliance involved. You can make video versions of them nowadays. But just something that explains your terms and your client agreement, really easy to sign, but also branded and looks nice and looks easy for the client to engage with. I know I'm making it sound really simple, but there's no reason for nowadays for those things to look boring. And we shouldn't be at a point in our profession where we're accepting that. We shouldn't be apologizing to our clients for the documents that we give them. We should be proud of the stuff that we give to our clients. And so therefore, those are two key points in there. And I think everybody knows this as well. And the other bit is the fact find. So some people do this. I mean, a lot of people do this in different ways. Some people do it in person. Some people send like cash calc homework links. Some people send spreadsheets. Having done this myself recently, I can say that it was one of the most painful things I've ever done. Is not physically painful, obviously, but like mentally painful is filling out a spreadsheet that I know is going to go into Voyant. It is. I mean, first of all, when you're putting the data in, it's bullshit. Everything that you're putting into that spreadsheet is actually just a bit of a lie or an educated guess or an uneducated guess. And so therefore, you're putting in numbers and you're not really thinking about them. And so if there's some way that you can improve that fact find for those clients, getting that hard and I guess what we would call soft information from them in a way that doesn't make them want to kill themselves, then that is, that would be a huge tick in that client experience. And that would really make you stand out as well. So I just want you guys to know that although it might just be a link to you, or it might just be a spreadsheet to you, or it might just be something that you have to do for your clients, that bit there is the most painful bit of the whole process that I've seen across lots of different financial planning businesses and myself as well. So the more work that you can put into that element there, where you're getting data from your clients, the more results you're going to see from the client experience side as well. And very, very simple, a welcome video. You can record these yourself. There's loads of different things that we can look at for this, but the welcome video just explains, okay, so we're now on this journey together. What comes next? What will we ask for from you? How does becoming a client look? What should you expect from us? All those different aspects that, we probably explain in the meeting itself, but the video is there to kind of back up those thoughts afterwards. So again, really simple to do nowadays, but can go a long way. And this is, again, something, apologies if people have been on webinars from me before, but I don't need to kind of explain this, but nobody, I don't think, was ever impressed by a 60-page report. There's probably a few people who were, who are engineers and teachers and those kind of things. But I think we all know nowadays that that 60-page suitability report that goes through all of the kind of the ins and the outs and the boring stuff and the legals, I don't think that impresses people. I think nowadays, one-page plans, short summaries, dynamic plans, interactive plans, things that you can build digitally online, they're much more impressive. And especially for the kind of people that most financial planners work with, who are the delegators, they're the people who haven't got a lot of time, the people who want everything quickly and just want the answers now. They're not going to have the time to read through a 60-page report. So a one-page plan, two-page plan, short summary, dynamic plan, whatever it is, whatever format it takes, even just a video, that can be so much more powerful. And of course, I know that, and I can hear a few of you saying it now, is that really, that isn't impressive either. The actual planning, most of the time, happens in those meetings themselves. In, when you're going through cash flow with the client or whatever it might be, that's where the actual planning happens. I know that. And so that's something else for us to think about as well, is how can we make that moment of when we start to get them to realize, you know what, I think I can retire 5 years early. How can we make that even more impressive than it already is? There's lots of things that we can be thinking about at every single touch point in this journey. But if what we're giving to them is crap, then that really doesn't kind of make them impressed by our client's experience along that way. This is the bit that I think I get most asked about, in terms of people are pretty comfortable with the stuff that they do when they're getting clients on board, but actually what happens next? And when you start to break it down, service propositions and rate cards and what people get for all their different levels and those kind of things, it starts to get really confusing. And there's no real guidance from the regulator or anything on this kind of stuff, because it's kind of fair game. Anybody can pretty much do, as long as you do your annual suitability, which is changing soon, of course. Well, might be. Anything goes, really. And so a lot of the time people still send things like investment updates and those kind of things, which I'm not going to give an opinion on today. But the bit between reviews, or the bit between meetings, is the bit where you either get forgotten and maybe the idea of value starts to get questioned in the client's head, or where you get remembered. So really simple one is a newsletter. Okay, that's actually worth reading. Personal, not too much technical or compliance stuff in there. Really, really nice. Giving a summary of the firm normally works really, really well. Updates when the markets wobble. It's going to happen. We know it is. But just a nice quick, off the fly video to say, we know this is happening right now. It's a part of, investing. Let's just be a bit more sensible about this. Even something like that can go a huge way in between your meetings with clients. And also, a lot of people kind of focus their marketing externally. They'll think of, they'll think that any videos that they record or any content that they create is just for the external audience to try and get more clients in. But your existing clients, I think everybody knows this, are way more valuable and over the lifetime of your business than those people outside of your business who aren't clients yet. And they'll cost a lot more to get them. It'll cost way less to engage the people who are already your clients or already in your list or whatever it might be. So focus your content towards them. Some people I've been working with have created little WhatsApp communities for their clients. Some people have created little training areas. Some people have created even school communities and stuff like that, where clients can engage with each other, but also they can kind of ask any questions, or they get content regularly and those kind of things. So I think what I would do is I would think about your existing client. I guess the old word would be bank, which I hate. Existing client community, and think about what we are giving to that community and what's in there and how do we engage with them. They're way more valuable than new clients ever could be. And the final bit of the whole process, which we're looking at today, I know there's loads more to it than this, but is that forward planning. I've called it forward planning, by the way, because of CP19 and CP26 and whatever's coming this year, in terms of annual suitability and those kind of things. But I think we all know that this moment here, or the financial planning meeting every year, is more than just a tick box. I can imagine that most of you who are watching this right now, The clients might head to performance straight away, but actually you're trying to veer them away from performance because it's not the most important thing. You're talking about their life, you're talking about the changes in their life, you're talking about what they're going through at the moment, and that's the valuable stuff. And so what we want is to capture that valuable stuff. We want to, yes, make it feel considered, give them some stuff that actually, points towards their goals rather than their performance values. So you can see on the screen there, I've put a little kind of percentage there, progress towards your goal this year, whatever that might be. Visuals work really well. Branded summaries are always really good. And again, technology's made it a lot easier for us to do them nowadays. And just a reminder that you're there for them. They might forget that after working with you for many years. Likelihood of that is with you guys probably low, but just remind them every now and again that if they need you at any point, you're there, and how they can do that and who they should contact and those kind of things. All these little things might sound so obvious, but actually they get lost along the way when we're working with clients and building our businesses and stuff like that. So forward planning, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of you guys do it fantastically well. It's just to try and kind of take away that idea that it's a tick box or an appointment or a sign to the regulator that you're doing everything right, and think about the client perspective of how can we make it impressive for those guys as well. And this is something I've talked about before, but those small parts of the client journey, which I think everybody kind of maybe sometimes laughs at, not cruelly, but they just think, oh God, that's funny, isn't it? Sending birthday cards, sending them little handwritten postcards, sending them little gifts. Alan Smith at Capital, one of his best ideas was that he sends his clients anniversary reminders. I absolutely love that idea. So he'll send them a little reminder to say it's your wedding anniversary soon, go get some flowers. Love that kind of thing. Those little small elements often get talked about for so many years. And they're the things that actually what you'll find is they're the things that make people refer others and clients and friends to your business. They're the things that actually are often the little strike of, yes, I'm going to start telling other people about this person because they're so amazing. Things like that, the personal elements, they can't be overstated, those things. So all of this, I put that, it's not magic. None of this stuff is magic. We're not performing miracles by doing any of this stuff, but it is magical, and it can completely change the way that you feel about your advice, but also your clients feel about your client's experience as well. So if you look at that I'm going to send you these slides, by the way, afterwards, but if you look at all of these different touch points in this journey here, where can you make it feel magical? And you might just start with one. You might start at the end. That's completely fine. It doesn't matter too much. You don't have to work through this chronologically, but just think about how you can add a little flair, little magic to each of those things. Some of the things I've said today might have got your brain moving. If so, great. But even if you could just bring this up at your next meeting with each other and just kind of think about how can we make it magical, that would go a huge way. So here's, I guess, the kind of summary then. So if we take all of the things that we looked at today and we actually put them into practice, what I would describe that actually as is a firm that looks as good as it actually is. And that's kind of the tagline here at Plan Haus is your advice changes lives. Now let's show it. And that's what we want. We want, everybody here to change things in their processes that actually shows, rather than just telling, what they actually do and how amazing their service is and how you change people's lives. You stop apologizing for your website or the documents that you give to people. You're proud of them instead. And actually what you do is you attract the right people for your business rather than just getting, taking anybody on, all those kind of things. All the things we talked about today, they can go a long way, not only from a client experience point of view, but from a marketing point of view as well, both internally with your clients, but also externally with prospects and all of those kind of things out there. So as I said, today, what I'm going to do is I'll send you your free video guide. So this is a short guide. I think it's only like 11 pages. I've put it together just on some of the things that we've been working on over the years in terms of video. And this is probably the point at the moment where you can really stand out and that's why I've chosen video, is because this is the medium I think that will help firms go from good, really, really good to world class and slick and, acting bigger than you actually are. The guide is really, really quick, really, really simple, and it'll have some good ideas in there for you as well. And like I said, one of you, I'm almost giggling because the more conversations I have about video, the more I realize that people are actually terrified of it, which is completely fine, by the way. And like I said, I'm not forcing this upon any of you, but all of you are entered now into a free video day draw. So keep an eye on your email for the next couple of weeks, and one of you will be winning that prize. You're entered automatically, and just keep an eye on your emails for next week. And we can do whatever it is that you want to, whether it's testimonials, whether it's content for your business, whether it's whatever it is. That day is completely on me. We can travel to you, and we can get as much content out of it as you possibly want. So that's a little thank you from me for being here today. So a big thank you. And if you do want any hand with any of this, when I send you the slides afterwards, I've put a link to my free discovery call in there. It's only 30 minutes. We can chat about you. We can chat about your business. We can chat about the things that you want to achieve over the next 12 months or whatever it might be. And we can just have a good old fashioned nabber about whatever it is that we want to look at. But that is all from me today. We've got a couple of comments in there, which is just, oh, nice surprise. And yeah, some other comments in there. I don't think anybody's got specifically any questions. If you do, like I said, I'm going to be around. So if you do have any questions, just pop me over a message. And of course, we can book in some time whenever you like. I don't kind of hide my diary. You can have as much time as you want. We can go through anything that you're looking for as well. But huge thank you to all of you for being here today. I'll send you over the recording. I'll send you over the slides. I'll send you over that guide. And if you do have any questions or you want to book some time in, then please feel free. But I really appreciate you taking your time on this Thursday afternoon, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.